If you've been thinking of building a budget gaming PC in 2026, you might want to pause for a moment. What used to be simple, cheap, and exciting has now become a minefield of inflated prices, outdated hardware, and hidden costs that could drain hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars from your wallet. From GPU shortages and CPU bottlenecks to skyrocketing RAM and motherboard prices, the budget PC dream is turning into a nightmare. Today, we'll break down exactly why 2026 might be the worst possible year to start your build and what you can do to avoid getting burned. Have you checked GPU prices lately? You might be shocked at what's happening this year. Building a budget gaming PC in 2026 has become far more challenging than ever before. What used to be a straightforward and inexpensive process has now turned into a complex financial puzzle. Prices for GPUs, CPUs, RAM, motherboards, and even power supplies have skyrocketed, and availability is inconsistent at best. To understand why 2026 is shaping up to be the worst year to build a budget PC, it's important to look at the market reality in detail. First, let's examine graphics cards. GPUs are the cornerstone of any gaming PC, but mid-range options such as NVIDIA's RTX 4060 or AMD's RX 7600, which in previous years could be bought for $350, now cost anywhere between $450 and $500, depending on demand and stock. These inflated prices are due to a combination of factors. High demand from AI developers and cryptocurrency miners has absorbed much of the supply, even as production has increased globally. In addition, content creators and streamers are buying high-performance GPUs in bulk to handle AI editing software, rendering, and streaming. Manufacturers like NVIDIA and AMD have strategically shifted production to high-margin, high-end models, leaving fewer mid-range options for budget-conscious gamers. This means that even a simple entry-level gaming build could see its GPU alone cost almost as much as the entire PC would have in 2022. The situation is not much better for CPUs. Intel's 14th Gen i3 or AMD's Ryzen 5 7600, which are considered the entry-level options for gaming, are far from cheap in 2026. On top of that, modern CPUs require DDR5 compatible motherboards, which add another $100 to $150 in cost for even the most basic boards. The result is that a budget system in 2026 now requires a higher upfront investment than ever before. In previous years, gamers could assemble a functional PC for around $700, $800 with a modest GPU and CPU. Today, the same components could push a similar build close to $1,000 with little improvement in performance compared to past generations. Budget PC builders are now faced with a dilemma: either overpay for slightly better performance or settle for a system that will struggle with modern games. RAM pricing has also become a significant factor. DDR5 memory, which has become the standard in 2026, is considerably more expensive than DDR4. A 16GB kit now averages $80, $100, nearly double what similar kits cost just a few years ago. While DDR5 offers faster speeds and better future-proofing, the real-world performance benefits in current games are limited, which makes the higher price less appealing to budget builders. Storage has followed a similar pattern. NVMe SSDs, while much faster than SATA drives, have increased in cost. A 1TB NVMe drive now costs around $60, $70, making it only slightly cheaper than SATA options from previous years, even though the performance difference is notable. For budget gamers, the choice between faster storage or lower cost becomes another stressful decision. Power supplies and PC cases are also contributing to inflated prices. New efficiency standards and safety regulations have reduced the availability of cheap, high-wattage power supplies. Meanwhile, budget cases that were once widely available for $30, $40 now start at $50 to $60, leaving fewer affordable options. Even the smallest components, such as cooling fans or thermal paste, have seen price increases due to supply chain disruptions and increased global demand. All of these factors combined make building a budget PC in 2026 a far more expensive and frustrating task than in previous years. In addition to cost, availability is unpredictable. Popular budget GPUs or CPUs may appear in stock online one day and sell out in minutes, leaving gamers scrambling to find alternatives or pay inflated prices on third-party marketplaces. Supply chain disruptions, shipping delays, and regional pricing differences make the process even more complicated. Gamers often underestimate these hidden challenges until they are fully engaged in planning a build, only to find that the parts they intended to buy are either unavailable or far more expensive than expected. The takeaway is simple. Building a budget gaming PC in 2026 requires careful planning, a flexible budget, and patience. Prices are inflated, key components are scarce, and hidden costs can add up quickly. The era of affordable, capable gaming PCs has been replaced by a market that rewards those with higher budgets or those willing to compromise on performance. Gamers who dive in without understanding these market realities may find themselves frustrated and overspending, only to receive a system that doesn't meet expectations. So if you think $700 will get you a solid gaming PC in 2026, think again. How much are you willing to spend to get a system that actually performs well? Are you ready to deal with inflated prices and limited stock? Or would waiting a few months save you hundreds of dollars? Even if you manage to gather all the necessary parts for a budget gaming PC in 2026, the real question becomes, what do you actually get for your money? The short answer is, unfortunately, less than you probably expect. Mid-range GPUs, which are supposed to provide the best balance between performance and cost, now cost almost as much as last generation high-end cards, yet they deliver significantly lower performance. Take NVIDIA's RTX 4060 Ti, for example. It costs roughly the same as an RTX 3080 did in 2023, yet benchmarks show it achieving 40-50% fewer frames per second in modern AOA games. This creates a paradox for budget-conscious gamers. The same money buys less gaming experience than it would have just a couple of years ago. While the card may technically run games, the compromise in settings, resolution, and FPS can make even popular titles feel sluggish or underwhelming. For gamers looking for smooth performance at 1080p or even 1440p, this is a major disappointment. Entry-level CPUs also present a serious problem in 2026. Modern A games rely heavily on multiple cores and threads to handle AI behaviors, physics calculations, and advanced graphics like ray tracing. CPUs such as Intel 8Xi3, 14th Gen, or AMD S-Ryzen 57600 are technically capable of running these games, but when paired with even a mid-range GPU, they often create bottlenecks. This means your GPU cannot operate at its full potential because the CPU cannot process instructions fast enough. The result is lower frame rates, stuttering in performance-intensive games, and reduced overall experience. In previous years, a budget CPU could keep up reasonably well with mid-range graphics cards, but that gap has grown significantly in 2026. As a result, even a decent $750 build will underperform compared to similar priced systems from just a few years ago. Gamers are left making hard decisions, either overspend on a slightly better CPU or accept reduced performance and frustration during gameplay. RAM and storage also play an increasingly important role, even for budget builds. DDR5 memory, while offering higher speeds and future-proofing for upcoming titles, consider a practical example. A $750 budget build in 2023 could comfortably run most AAA games at 1080p on high settings, often achieving 60 frames per second or higher. The same $750 spent in 2026, with current prices, may struggle to run the same games at medium settings at roughly 40-45 FPS. Even with careful selection of parts, gamers experience a noticeable drop in performance despite spending the same amount of money. In essence, your dollars are worth less in terms of gaming performance than they were just a few years ago, making 2026 a particularly bad year for building a budget gaming PC. This performance gap also forces gamers to compromise on settings, graphics quality, and resolution. To get playable frame rates, you may need to reduce texture quality, disable ray tracing, or lower resolution from 1440p to 1080p. In the past, these compromises were mostly optional, but in 2026, they are often unavoidable for budget builds. Gamers who are accustomed to higher settings may find themselves disappointed and frustrated, realizing that the system they paid for does not deliver the same experience as even slightly older builds from previous years. Adding to the problem are hidden costs that further reduce value. Power supplies, cases, and peripherals have all increased in price, meaning that even if the GPU and CPU are accounted for, the total build cost can quickly balloon. Many budget gamers overlook these additional expenses until the final assembly, only to discover that their planned $750 system has become closer to $900 or more. The gap between cost and performance has never been more noticeable, reinforcing why 2026 is such a difficult year for building budget PCs. So if you are planning a 2026 budget build, ask yourself, are you ready to pay more for less gaming performance? Would you rather compromise on FPS, graphics, or resolution? Or are you willing to wait for prices to stabilize and performance to improve? How much frustration are you willing to endure for a system that may not even meet your expectations? Even if you somehow manage to gather all the major components for a budget gaming PC in 2026, there are numerous hidden costs that can make the entire build far more expensive than you anticipated. Many gamers focus solely on the CPU, GPU, RAM, and motherboard, assuming that a $700 or $750 budget will cover everything. However, the reality is that peripherals, shipping costs, regional taxes, power requirements, and even energy consumption can add hundreds of dollars to a system without most people realizing it. These hidden costs often push budget builds over $1,000, turning what seemed like an affordable gaming solution into a major financial headache. Peripherals are one of the first hidden costs that many budget builders overlook. Monitors, keyboards, mice, and even basic audio solutions have all increased in price in 2026. For example, a 1080p 184 Hz monitor that would have been around $150 just a few years ago now starts at $200 to $120. Mechanical keyboards and gaming mice, which were previously obtainable for $40, $50, can easily cost $70, $80 each. Even simple upgrades like a mousepad or headset can push a budget further than intended. For gamers who are building a system from scratch, these expenses are unavoidable if you want a complete gaming setup that can actually be used. It's no longer just about having the PC itself. Everything around it also carries a premium. Shipping and regional taxes add another layer of complexity. Global supply chain issues continue to affect the availability of components, particularly GPUs and motherboards. Delays in shipping can make even budget-friendly components more expensive once delivery fees and taxes are included. Tariffs or import surcharges in certain regions can add an additional 10 to 20% to the total cost. What might seem like a $700 build at first glance can easily rise to $850 or more once these additional costs are factored in. For gamers trying to stay under a strict budget, this unpredictability can be a major source of frustration. Planning ahead is essential, yet many first-time builders underestimate just how much shipping and regional fees will impact the overall cost of their system. Energy costs are another hidden factor that is often ignored. New efficiency standards for power supplies have reduced the availability of cheap, high-wattage units. This means gamers may be forced to buy a more expensive PSU to power their system safely. On top of that, high-performance GPUs and CPUs draw more power than ever before, especially during long gaming sessions or when running demanding games. For those who play for multiple hours a day, the cost of electricity can add up over time. In some cases, running a high-end budget build could cost $20, $30 per month in electricity alone, depending on your region. Many gamers fail to consider this, assuming that once the system is built, their costs are done. In reality, energy consumption adds an ongoing expense that should be considered as part of the total cost of ownership. The secondhand market, which used to be a reliable source for budget builders, has also become risky in 2026. Many used GPUs and CPUs come from ex-crypto miners who may have pushed these components to their limits over years of intensive use. While buying used can seem like a way to save money, it comes with significant risks. These components often lack warranties, and failure rates are higher than new parts. Even if a used GPU is priced attractively, you may face performance issues or outright failure within months, resulting in additional unexpected costs. The appeal of cheap, secondhand components has diminished in 2026, making new purchases, or carefully vetted refurbished options, a safer choice for serious gamers. In addition to the monetary costs, these hidden factors create a significant time cost. Gamers must spend hours researching component compatibility, tracking prices, monitoring stock, and evaluating refurbished options to ensure they get the best value. This process can be mentally exhausting and frustrating, particularly for beginners who are unfamiliar with the current market conditions. The financial, energy, and time investments all add up, making 2026 one of the worst years to attempt a budget build. So if you're thinking of building a budget PC this year, you need to ask yourself, are you willing to risk buying used or refurbished components that may fail in a few months? Can you handle shipping delays, energy costs, and inflated peripheral prices without exceeding your budget? And ultimately, would you rather wait for prices to stabilize or risk overspending now on a system that may not meet your expectations? If you absolutely cannot wait to build a gaming PC in 2026, there are ways to approach the market strategically to minimize costs and maximize performance. The key is to rethink the traditional approach to building from scratch, since buying every component new is both expensive and risky this year. One of the smartest alternatives is to consider refurbished or slightly older systems. These PCs, often sold by trusted refurbishers or verified sellers, allow you to obtain components that are still high-performing, but at a fraction of the cost of buying brand new hardware. For example, a refurbished system with a last-generation RTX 3080 or RX 6800 can outperform a brand new mid-range GPU like the RTX 4060 Ti, often for $100, $200 less. This approach bypasses the inflated prices of current generation components and provides a system that is more reliable and capable for modern games. Another option is incremental upgrading. Instead of building a complete PC from scratch, focus on improving an existing system piece by piece. Upgrading a mid-range GPU, adding faster RAM, or swapping a SATA SSD for an NVMe drive can provide significant performance improvements without the massive upfront cost of a full build. This method is especially effective for gamers who already have a working system that struggles only in certain areas. Incremental upgrades allow you to stretch your budget, avoid motherboard or CPU compatibility issues, and achieve noticeable improvements in frame rates and loading times. By upgrading gradually, you also give yourself the flexibility to take advantage of price drops or sales as the year progresses, rather than committing all your funds at once. Cloud gaming services are becoming a surprisingly viable alternative, particularly for budget-conscious gamers in 2026. Platforms like NVIDIA GeForce Now, Xbox Cloud Gaming, and other subscription services allow you to stream AAA games directly to your PC, laptop, or even mobile device without requiring high-end hardware. While cloud gaming does not offer the same level of local control over performance, it eliminates the need to buy expensive GPUs, CPUs, or large amounts of RAM. Subscription costs are relatively modest compared to building a full system. And for gamers who mainly play popular titles rather than competitive esports, cloud gaming offers a convenient and cost-effective solution. This approach is ideal for those who want a near-instant gaming experience without spending thousands of dollars or dealing with the frustrations of inflated component prices. Waiting strategically is another approach that should not be underestimated. Prices for GPUs and CPUs are expected to stabilize later in 2026 as supply chains improve and manufacturers adjust production to meet demand. Even waiting a few months can make a dramatic difference in cost, especially for mid-range builds. By monitoring pricing trends and staying patient, budget-conscious gamers can avoid overpaying for components that are temporarily inflated. Historical trends show that GPU and CPU prices tend to drop gradually after new product launches or as newer generations enter the market, making patience a powerful tool for maximizing performance per dollar spent. It's also worth considering hybrid strategies. For example, a gamer could purchase a refurbished system with a strong GPU and CPU and supplement it with a cloud gaming subscription for titles that require cutting-edge performance. Alternatively, you could upgrade a mid-tier existing system with select new components and delay the remaining purchases until prices fall. These flexible strategies allow gamers to remain active in 2026 without overspending or compromising on gaming experience. Ultimately, the key takeaway is that building a budget gaming PC from scratch in 2026 is no longer the optimal approach for most gamers. Refurbished systems, incremental upgrades, cloud gaming, and patient buying strategies all provide viable alternatives that reduce cost, risk, and frustration. Each option comes with trade-offs, but compared to building entirely new hardware at inflated prices, they are more efficient and effective in terms of value for money and performance. So, the question for you is, if you had to game in 2026 on a budget, which strategy would you choose? Refurbished systems, incremental upgrades, cloud gaming, or simply waiting for better prices? Which approach would save you the most money while still delivering a satisfying gaming experience? To summarize everything we've discussed, building a budget gaming PC in 2026 is far more complicated and expensive than it has ever been. Prices for critical components, such as GPUs, CPUs, RAM, and motherboards, have increased dramatically, making even modest builds costly and often underperforming compared to similar budget systems from previous years. GPUs, which are arguably the most important part of a gaming PC, have become significantly more expensive due to high demand from AI developers, content creators, and cryptocurrency enthusiasts, combined with supply limitations. The result is that mid-range GPUs now cost nearly as much as last-generation high-end models, yet deliver noticeably less performance. This alone makes it difficult for budget gamers to build systems that can handle modern AAA games without significant compromises in frame rates, graphics quality, or resolution. CPUs have also followed this trend, particularly those aimed at entry-level builds. Budget CPUs like Intel Si3, 14th Gen, or AMD, .NES, Ryzen 5 7600 are no longer inexpensive and require DDR5 compatible motherboards, which adds unexpected costs. RAM prices have risen, and even storage solutions like NVMe SSDs, while faster, come at a premium. Power supplies and cases have become more expensive due to new efficiency and safety standards. Even small components and peripherals, from monitors to keyboards and mice, are costing more than they did just a few years ago. Hidden costs, such as shipping, taxes, electricity, and time, spent researching and monitoring prices, further increase the total investment required. All of these factors combine to make building a budget PC in 2026 a frustrating and expensive experience, often leaving gamers with a system that underperforms relative to its cost. Given these realities, the smartest approach in 2026 is to consider alternatives rather than trying to force a traditional budget build. Refurbished systems are one of the most effective options. Buying a slightly older but still high-performance system can provide better gaming performance than a brand new mid-range build at a similar or lower cost. Trusted refurbishers offer warranties, verified components, and tested systems that reduce the risk associated with secondhand purchases. This approach allows gamers to bypass inflated new component prices while still achieving solid performance in current games. Incremental upgrading is another strategy that works well. Instead of starting from scratch, you can improve an existing system piece by piece. Adding a stronger GPU, upgrading RAM, or switching to NVMe storage can dramatically improve performance without requiring the full cost of a new build. This method allows gamers to take advantage of price drops, sales, or temporary discounts, and reduces the risks associated with supply chain delays or inflated component prices. By upgrading selectively, gamers can create a system that feels modern and capable without exceeding their budget. Cloud gaming and subscription services are increasingly viable as well. Platforms like NVIDIA, GeForce Now, or Xbox Cloud Gaming let you play demanding games without needing expensive hardware. While cloud gaming doesn't offer the same level of local performance control, it provides a surprisingly cost-effective way to access AAA titles without worrying about GPU shortages, CPU bottlenecks, or RAM limitations. For casual gamers or those who are primarily interested in popular AAA or multiplayer games, cloud gaming is a particularly attractive option in 2026. Finally, patience is one of the most important strategies. GPU and CPU prices are expected to stabilize later in 2026 as supply chains recover, production adjusts, and demand normalizes. Waiting even a few months can save hundreds of dollars, especially for mid-range builds. Historical trends show that price drops often follow new generation launches or market adjustments, meaning that strategic patience can result in a far better balance of price, performance, and availability. Hybrid strategies also work well, such as upgrading an existing system now while waiting for other components to drop in price, or supplementing your build with cloud gaming until hardware becomes more affordable. In conclusion, 2026 is an unusually challenging year for budget gamers, but it is not impossible to game effectively without overspending. Understanding the market realities, planning carefully, and using alternative strategies like refurbished systems, incremental upgrades, cloud gaming, or strategic waiting can help you maximize performance and value. The key takeaway is that building a full budget PC from scratch is no longer the most efficient or cost-effective route. Thoughtful planning, flexibility, and patience will allow gamers to enjoy modern titles without falling into the trap of overpaying or compromising on performance. So here's the question for you. If you had to game in 2026 on a limited budget, which strategy would you choose? Refurbished systems, incremental upgrades, cloud gaming, or waiting for better prices? And what sacrifices, if any, would you be willing to make to enjoy a smooth gaming experience without overspending?